I am very fortunate to have Rev Marvin McMickle of the Antioch Baptist Church. I think he is the right person because in his own words he says, life as a pastor sensitizes you to the human needs of the society. And I think our society today in Cleveland is in need of our all being sensitized to the human need. Reverend McMickle came to us from Chicago. Well, he was really born and raised here. And I was just talking to him that Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King were not very cooperative with the weather. And we laughed. At the same time, he is a pastor that is very much involved in recognizing the connectivity between religion, society, and he was actually motivated by Martin Luther King's speech that led him to change his profession to become a pastor. Antioch, I didn't realize, has many ministries, and they are all under the acronym TOWER, which stands for teaching, outreach, worship, evangelism, and relations. I can go on and on for this great pastor that this city is lucky to have. And I'm sure with this beginning of creating a cyber wall, we will get all his support to make sure that all of Cleveland and its citizens are sensitized to the need and do their part to make it a city of peace and nonviolence. Reverend McMickle, would you please honor us?
Good evening. It is a delight to be here and to share in the initial signing of the Cyber Wall of Peace. I might say to you that I've sort of jumped the gun, and I signed it, I think, on Thursday, because I wanted to see what it said and what was involved. And so I do encourage all of you who have not done so to go to clevelandpeople.com. Go on to the cyber wall, Cleveland as a city of peace, and write your own statement about what it means to have a city of peace and how important it is for us to keep alive the idea that even in a world that is as defined by violence and warfare as is the case today, that people of goodwill can stand up and speak up and can begin to point us in the alternative direction. That is really what Dr. King and Mahatma Gandhi had in common. They lived in violent times. They lived under violent regimes, but they were determined not to fight fire with fire. I had the great and rare privilege of knowing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1966, he came to my hometown of Chicago, Illinois, for an open housing campaign. At the time that he came to our city, I had just finished high school. I was about to go off to college. I had no particular vocational direction, and I was working in a print shop called Poole Brothers Print Shop. The only product that Poole Brothers Print Shop made was Playboy magazine. So I was busy at work as a young 17-year-old with the dream job of a lifetime, making Playboy magazine. I was at my lunch break, and I was reading one of our local papers, and I saw in the paper that Martin Luther King Jr. was coming to Chicago that next evening, not that same night, but that next evening, to Liberty Baptist Church on what was then 47th and South Parkway. I decided to go and to see what was going to happen, what he was going to say. I did go. I got involved in that violent, hostile, horrific summer of activity. Cars burning, white Nazis on every corner, threats of death all around us. But our intention was not to fight fire with fire, but rather to model how peaceful change and peaceful coexistence could occur. That summer of 1966 was decisive in my life, and while I have not always lived up to the standards of Dr. King, I have always seen in him a model of how to go at the things that we hate, to go at them with love, and to go at them with tolerance, and to go at them together. Key to the civil rights movement was not African Americans working alone. It was, as the song said, black and white, and Jew and Gentile, and Protestant and Catholic, and Christians and Muslims laboring together. I just finished a book, I recommend this to you as I finish up, called Freedom Summer. It is the newest book about the summer of 1964, when the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee went into the state of Mississippi to try and initiate a voter registration campaign, and then to send a delegation of black people from Mississippi to the 1964 Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City to say that we have a right to vote and to be a part of the American process. What made Freedom Summer 1964 successful was not just black people, though people like Fannie Lou Hamer and Bob Moses and others were instrumental. It was the presence of people from many cultures and of many colors who came together. It was during Freedom Summer that 3 civil rights workers, Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney, were killed by the Ku Klux Klan, buried in 20 feet of mud, found 2 months later. It was that culture into which they took the message of nonviolence. We cannot wait until the world becomes nonviolent in order to practice it. We have to confront the violence, the hostility, and the animosity that presently exists by showing a different face to the world. And so I've signed the Cyber Wall of Peace. I commit myself to labor together with those of like mind and spirit to see if we can't make a stand in a city that is not unknown for acts of violence. Acts of violence, citizens upon citizens. Acts of violence, men upon women. Acts of violence, young people upon old people. Acts of violence across racial lines and cultural lines. If we can do it here, we can make this an example for other cities and other parts of our country. So I commend those who have thought of this idea. It is an important start. It is a start. Nothing will end the day we sign the Cyber Wall of Peace. But once we start down that path, I believe the doors will open and the opportunities will come for others to see this vision and to say that this is the path that they too want to follow. So for the last 44 years, this has been my life's work. And I salute those of you who are engaged in it and urge all of you today to sign that Cyber Wall of Peace, to commit yourself to a life of peace and nonviolence, and to see that even in a world as hostile and as violent and as dangerous as the one in which we live, maybe the Beatles were right. All that we're saying